Hey Cedar Grove family, and anyone else tuning into these videos. Garrick here with just another quick Devo for you. I just want to take some time this week, being in Holy Week leading up to Resurrection Sunday, to take some time and look at what Jesus' week was like in this time as he was walking up to his crucifixion. So I want to start off here in John chapter 12, and I would encourage you to take your time and look at this passage. If you start in John chapter 12, if you want to read through it in John, you can check it out in the other Gospels as well. But in John 12, if you start there and then read through chapter 21, you can walk through what Jesus' week was like. And I think that is a great thing to do this time of year, looking at why we celebrate Easter, why we celebrate Resurrection Sunday, and just looking at all the things that he walked through leading up to his crucifixion. And where I want to start is actually at the anointing of his feet, when Mary anoints his feet. And I just want to look at the contrast we have here between Judas and Mary in this situation. So I'm going to go ahead and start in John chapter 12. I'll start in verse 3 and just read through verse 6. Then Mary took a pound of very costly oil and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the oil. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, who would betray him, said, "Why was this fragrant oil not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and had the money box, and he used to take what was put in it. So here we have Mary, who has this very expensive oil, and she is anointing Jesus' feet with it. And I just want to look at her first. So first she has this pound of oil that she anoints Jesus' feet with. And it's quite a bit of oil when you're looking at a whole pound of oil to anoint his feet. So first off, she's really pouring this oil on his feet to anoint him. And I just think that without reservation, this is an act of love and an act of worship towards Jesus. And I just think that is such an encouraging statement, as she is not worrying about what she could have done with this oil, how she could have benefited from selling it instead of using it to love Jesus. She is just giving wholeheartedly to him. And this oil it cost 300 denarii is what Judas is saying it could have been sold for, which would have been, in that time, it would have been roughly a year's wages, a little more actually than a year's wages for an average laborer or a soldier. So this is quite an expensive oil, and she is just using it to anoint Jesus' feet, to love him, to worship him. And we see on the flip side of the coin, we see Judas, who is saying, "Well, why was this fragrant oil not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" And this he said not because he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief. Right? So Judas was questioning why this oil was wasted, essentially, in his mind, and not sold and given to the poor, because he saw an opportunity for himself to make quite a bit of money if this had been sold, and the money would have been put into the money box that he could have then taken from. And I just think about quite the contrast we have here. Judas is using these motivations of giving to the poor, of giving to charity, to try to better his standing in the world. And his focus is on earthly things, on his earthly possessions. Whereas Mary was the complete opposite. She was focused solely on loving Jesus, on worshiping him, not on herself, not on how she could have benefited, but her whole purpose here was to love and worship Jesus. And as I walked through this and read through this on my own, I was just thinking about this time of year for us. This time, especially in the circumstances that we're in now, it's easy to be focused on what is going on around us, to be worried about, the stock market, jobs, economy, all those different things. And I just think, why aren't we more like Mary? Why aren't we more focused on Jesus, right? We're walking through Holy Week. We're coming up on Resurrection Sunday, a time of year where we see Jesus being crucified for us, dying for us, suffering for us out of love. And I just want to encourage you that as we walk up to this holy time of year, to stay focused on Jesus, to stay focused on what he did for us, whether that's, starting and reading through the story to think through it and focus on it. I think that's a great way to do it. And you don't have to. There's other things you could do, certainly. But I think that would be a great place to start. Or are we more focused on what's going on around us with the coronavirus going around, worrying about when are we going to get back to work? When are things going to be back to normal? When can I travel again? When can I have my big Easter dinner with all my family? All that different stuff. It's easy to worry about and miss those things. But I would encourage you to be more like Mary and be more focused on the holy time a year that we are coming up on, and loving Jesus with our whole heart, our whole soul, and our whole mind, and not being focused on the things of this world, but being focused solely on Him through this holy time of year. And I think for me, it was beneficial to read through this story as we walk up to Resurrection Sunday, and I would definitely encourage you to do the same and just look at Jesus as He knew what He was walking up on, yet He was willing to do it because He loved us. He loved each and every one of us. And I just think how powerful that is for us as we walk through life, that we would stay focused on Him and stay focused on loving those around us as He first loved us. And not being worried and consumed with the things of this world and distracted, but to stay focused on Jesus and what He has called us to do. So as we walk up to Easter Sunday or Resurrection Sunday, I would encourage you to stay focused. While we're not going to have our regular services, we will still try to keep you updated with more video updates as we come up on Sunday. So stay tuned for those, and I just will be praying for you all that you would be able to stay focused on Jesus and not be worried about the things of this world and not be anxious, but to stay focused on Him through this holy time and really sit down and take the extra time that you might have now and ponder really how much He loved us, how much He was willing to show that love by suffering and dying for us so that we could be made right with God. So until next time, I just will be praying for you all as you walk through this time, and I just ask or hope and pray that you're staying focused on Jesus through this time.